I feel like his introduction was very strong and captivating. I especially liked how he talked about the odds of how unlikely it was to be here, and then kind of broke that down about why, like where his dad was from, like his family background, and also I mean he was a presidential candidate, and I feel like that really helped kind of bring him down to earth because a lot of presidential candidates are kind of just like super upper class, and obviously he also had a great education, but I feel like it did its job, but also set a really nice tone and used a conversational tone too. It didn't seem like he was just presenting facts about himself. It was like he was telling a story and really involving the audience. And he also, in his introduction, even though he got interrupted like immediately by applause, he was really good at just kind of rolling through that and just kind of making it seem like it was part of his speech, like the applause, and just like he just dealt with it perfectly. It felt like. And I do feel like he spoke from his heart for sure, just because all the personal stories he brought in, and I feel like there's real emotion behind that. It wasn't like super emotional. I feel like it could use a little bit more emotion. It was a little bit robotic at times, but I mean, he still brought in like really personal stories and just showed like a different side than I think most politicians do. Although a lot of them do kind of like the I'm a small town, like all that stuff, which he did do a little bit of, but still felt really real and like from the heart and genuine. Like, and I think that really helped kind of bring the authenticity of the speech and just show that he wasn't just up there just saying things. It was really like from the heart and just there was a message behind it. And I did think it was definitely organized and prepared. I mean, especially like I was saying earlier, just to be able to roll through being interrupted, you have to be super prepared to do that. You have to know all your material. Because I know whenever I get interrupted and if I'm doing a speech, I kind of just like mind goes blank sometimes. Even if I was really on a roll, I'll just lose track. Even if it's not like an actual interruption, but it's like an applause or a laugh or something, kind of can just throw me off my game. And he just like rolled through it perfectly, rolled with the punches, and kind of like made it part of his speech, and then just even gave almost more authenticity and all of that, just because it was like you could just tell that everyone was engaged, and he like whenever someone would like applause and laugh, he kind of like give a little wave and all that, and then get right back to his points without skipping a beat. Remember exactly where he was. That just showed like an exemplary level of preparedness that I think was definitely really good, and just shows that he probably did that 1,000 times. And his audience was definitely engaged just because they were applauding the whole time, and he would kind of bring them into it. Like he'd be like a small town of Kansas, and like all the people from Kansas would cheer, and just like all of the stories would kind of relate. And also, whenever he'd like make a moral statement, he'd make sure it's one that's kind of like everyone agrees with. Be like, crime is bad, like that type of stuff, where it's like just about everyone who, especially at his convention, is going to agree with. And I feel like that really helps the audience engage, because it kind of brings them into it, because they feel like some attachment, like, yeah, like I can get behind this. And just the audience seemed super engaged and supportive of everything he was saying. The highlight of this speech was, for me, it wasn't really one moment. If it had to be one moment, I would say probably the introduction, just because it was just super strong and like brought a lot of information without seeming robotic. I feel like that's very hard to do. I can't really do that. I can't bring up any personal stories. I need to get better at that. But the main highlight for me was just how he was able to deliver his message without having it seem like that was the whole point of the speech. Like he just kept subtly slipping in his values and like building a narrative about like how he's like kind of small town and like an underdog in the world of everything, and like how all his values are really good, without just seeming like he's just stating all that. Kind of just naturally flowed in, and he was able to weave together this, like, you leave it with this really specific image of him that was definitely the point of the speech, was to curate that and kind of protect that, and he does it without you even really noticing, and that was just something that was really impressive to me. And the only thing I think he could really improve on was, I like a lot when someone uses a little bit of comedy at the beginning of their speech to kind of just like break the tension. I understand it probably wasn't the best stage to do that, but I feel like that could have helped at least a little bit. I know you said like a few things that people kind of laughed here and there, but I feel like a little bit more could have been nice. Maybe it wasn't the right setting and tone. You can't really get too much just from a video looking at him, and obviously this is like a multi-hour long convention, and this is just his speech, so maybe I'm missing there. Also, his hands, he had some weird stuff with his hands on occasion, and even though I know you're supposed to really stand to the podium when you're giving a speech like that, he was just kind of glued to the podium, And a big chunk of the speech, he was just only using his right hand, kind of doing the same, like, 2 or 3 hand motions. The left hand was kind of glued and fidgeting a little bit. I don't think that's a big deal. And then later in the speech, he uses both hands. But sometimes I felt a little bit awkward in the speech. And one thing I learned from him to come as a speaker is definitely, like, how he just weaved in the point of the speech without even feeling like he was drilling that into you. But you just leave it with the exact feeling that he intended. And I feel like that'd be really useful, especially in, like, a business setting. Just, like, using subtly, just perfectly getting your point across without even making it look like you needed to or wanted to. I just feel like that's a very impressive talent that I hope I could get. And overall, anything from there, I mean, he's a brilliant public speaker. That's why he was president, I think. And I would love to take away any of his attributes, for sure, as a public speaker.